With Todd's Pod. Welcome back to another episode. Today I have Ben Brooks. He's a very good friend. Sober living and some of the gifts of sobriety. Introduce yourself, Ben.
Extremely grateful to be here. So, Todd, thank you for the invite. Now, tell it like it is.
Okay, cool. So first thing, I want to share a story. I always share a story. I don't know if y'all noticed the previous episodes, I had a beard. But when I first met Ben, off the charts, and but the thing about Ben, he was always, he was just he was there, and so that encouraged me to shave my face. Because what I found was Ben had to be serious, in my opinion. In a community like that, we needed somebody to hold us accountable, somebody. Recovery, we were in treatment, so we knew how to kind of be sober, but we didn't know how to live life. My recovery. So Ben,
Yeah.
tell us about you.
Could first, before I kind of,
Okay.
I would like to just kind of talk on why I was like that. And so early on in my own personal recovery, and seeing how easy it was for me to exhibit old behavior, and old behavior was a lot of manipulation and doing things in order to get my own way. I needed somebody to hold me accountable at all times. It was through those moments that, after I kind of started working for Pay It Forward, that I learned that in order to help individuals to kind of get out of their comfort zones, a lot of times individuals, when they get to us, or we've seen in the community, right, they've experienced homelessness or they've experienced substance use disorder in a way for so long that they're not used to going to work, or they're not used to making their beds and doing these types of things. So we get the opportunity to encourage them to do something different. And so in that process, I recognized how easy it was for me very early on to just tell a person, hey, here, you're not going to do this, this, and this, and this. And I was like that because I didn't want to promote a message where I'm stern and stiff on one individual or a few individuals, but not be stern and stiff with everyone else. So I figured that if I was like this across the board, I'd probably be able to, it probably would stick and make things just a little bit easier. I always figured one message goes a long way.
It's funny that you should say that, because one of the influences is one of the things that where I work. I've moved around in different positions, and I used to be in a position where I dealt with a lot of people all the time. And the one thing they would tell me is that you're consistent across the board. And I think that you laying out that foundation allows individuals to build on that. And I think it really tremendously helps, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So a little bit about me, I guess that's kind of where we're getting to. Born and raised right here in San Antonio. I actually grew up not far from here. And I grew up in this northeast kind of area, and one of the things that I saw early on is that there was a lot of drugs in this area, from Broadway to Thousand Oaks, Nacogdoches, Paramvital, Austin Highway. That was the area that I kind of grew up. Walsham Road. There was a lot of drugs growing up in the 80s and 90s, and so I naturally kind of gravitated towards that. I saw the flash. I saw the fun, the party lifestyle that was seemingly behind that, and I wanted it all in. And so early on, probably around 12 or 13, I started experimenting, and it progressed as I got through high school, and it extensively as I was going through high school. And then after high school with no real direction, no real uh, hope or purpose, I went further into the lifestyle, and that lifestyle led me to homelessness. I had committed a few crimes, unfortunately, in my teens. So that helped add to a pattern of expectation. I started believing that, well, you know, if I'm living this lifestyle, I just have to be able to accept this when it's like this. Always used to kind of say, well, you can accept the good when it's good, you got to be able to accept the bad when it's bad. And so that led to incarceration, it led to disappointments, it led to me letting other people down, family, friends. And so my addiction got really bad, especially towards the end. Um, and I had tried to get help before, but I had tried to get help just so that I could get clean, but I never tried to get help so that I could change my life. And so it was as a result of, getting a sponsor, working steps, living in sober living, and really putting forth the effort to figure out what change looked like in my life. And that was when things just seemingly got better. It wasn't easier. It didn't get easier, but it got better. And so I saw as a result pretty early on that hard work pays off. And so I learned to hustle, so to speak, in a whole different kind of way. This hustle had turned into hustle to complete my 12-step program, or hustle turned into, well, how many sponsees can I pick up that I can actually be able to impart life into, or how many meetings can I go to where I'm really feeling fulfilled, or let me go to school because they said if I get a job, right, like all these felonies that I have on my record, like this stuff kind of it just adds to the experience, makes me more marketable. And so I started hustling in some areas, right, and I saw life getting better. I started, as a result of doing the work, they say it works if you work it. Mm-hmm. And so more than the outside appearances, here I began to heal. And so,
cool.
Yeah.
So I have to interject a question because
Cool.
I told you no holds barred.
Yeah.
Did you have a setback during treatment that threw you off?
I did.
What happened?
Absolutely. So, before I got to treatment, I ran into a liquor store and I robbed a liquor store. Now, I didn't exactly pull a gun out or any of those things. But what I had done was I grabbed some bottles and I ran out the door. And as I was running out the door, the owner of the store who was in there shot at me. I heard and I felt bullets going past my head as I was running through a parking lot, liquor store, Austin Highway. And the bullets were going past my head. And it was at that moment that my life just really began to start flashing before my eyes. When I went into that liquor store, I had probably been physically awake about 7 days. And so the psychosis, filled with the adrenaline, was overwhelming. And so I got away. I had my aha moment where I started looking at my life and looking at, what almost happened. And I had this really scary vision or thought of my mom having to come identify my body in some parking lot because I was over here stealing some stuff from a store. And that scared me. And it's funny because before I ran into that store, I had said a prayer as I was going towards that store. And I said, God, I don't care if I go to jail again today. I said, please just don't let me get killed. And so after coming out of that situation, getting away, this guy shooting at me, what I feel like is almost losing my life, I saw God doing for me what I couldn't totally have done for myself. Because if I would have zigged when I should have zagged, I probably would have got hit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll get back to treatment. And so went to treatment literally a day after that. After I got away from the liquor store, I tried to get high, get drunk, nothing was working. I was just miserable. I hated life at this point, and so I said I need help, and so I went to get help. I got help. I was sitting in treatment for roughly 86 days, and I was feeling good about myself, and I was encouraging other people, and I had a sponsor working the steps. Then one night I saw myself on Crime Stoppers.
Oh no.
Yeah, 86 days in, and I immediately called my sponsor and I said, "Hey, I was just on the news. I don't know what to do." And he told me, he said, "Well, you gotta turn yourself in." And I said, "No, well, where I come from, yeah, we don't turn ourselves in." But I did because I believed that was the right thing to do. And so when I went after I turned myself in, I went into the jail. After I got my first initial indictment, aggravated robbery. The store owner had told the officers that he shot at me because I had a gun on me. And I had been awake so long, I don't even know if I did or I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so if I'm correct, if I'm seeing this right, I would say that was probably one of the toughest things to do is to trust your recovery and your program and your God to turn yourself in.
Yeah.
And then the ultimate outcome of it just strengthens your recovery. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's funny. So I'm sitting in jail, I'm facing 25 years aggravated. But I continue to work the steps with my sponsor. I call him every couple of days, and he sent me a big book, and he said, "We're just gonna keep working the steps, man." And he said, "You're just gonna have to figure it out." He said, "Because you may never come home." And I said, "Wow, I may never come home." And so it was a scary thought. I actually picked up my first sponsee in jail, 6 months sober.
Oh.
Yeah. And still talk to the guy today. And so, yeah, he, I was sitting in the day room in the jail, and I'd read the big book and read the stories, and my sponsor had me memorizing, different 7-step prayer, 3rd-step prayer. He said, "You're going to know this book by the time you make it to prison or by the time you get out." He said, one of the two is going to happen. He said, "You're going to know this book backwards and forwards." And so, I found hope in that because it took my mind to a place of freedom.
Yeah.
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 Definitely.
I seen all this hope as I was reading this big book, right? On my knees praying in my cell and doing 10-step inventories every single night during that time. So the guy who made the hooch for the dorm, and the dorm I was in, he was miserable and he hated life, and he would sit in his jail cell and he just drank all day and he'd sell cups of hooch. And so this is here at Bear County Jail. And so he came down to me and we had a conversation, and it was strange, but I told him, and I wasn't for sure exactly what the whole process looked like. I had to call my sponsor and ask. But I told the guy, I was like, "Sounds like you need to quit drinking and you need a sponsor. And I'm going to help you to work the steps."
Yeah.
Very informal, right?
Yeah.
I sponsored the guy, took him through the steps, and he stayed sober for a while.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's what matters, right?
Yeah.
That's all we can do. And this is not for us to keep. And when we start keeping it, we got problems. Yeah, definitely. So now you work for Pay It Forward. So what is your role at Pay It Forward, and where did you start, and where are you now with that?
Sure. So after sober living, or while I was living in sober living, the CEO at the time, she happened to just, see how encouraging and supportive I was. And, a lot of times people will move into like a housing, they'll get a free apartment or any of those types of things. And I was in the process of looking for a place. With my background, I wasn't sure if I didn't know what I was going to do. Actually happened to reach out to a friend, and he helped me to get an apartment. He had owned a little 1 bedroom, and so he rented it out to me. And I stayed in that apartment for 5 years. But right as I was moving out of sober living, CEO of this organization reached out to me and just said, "Hey, I've got a position open and I want you to fill it." And she said, "You can't say no."
It's funny how people see things in ourselves that we don't
Yeah.
see. We have no clue.
Yeah. And so,
there you go. Okay.
I told her, I said, well, of course, schedule, time, money. I was very busy at this point. And she just made it easy for me. Just made it very easy for me. She said, "Go do all the things that you need to do." And she said, "You can come in and work, from like 1 to 8, 1 to 9. I said, "That's great. It gives me time to do all the other stuff I want to do in the mornings, right?" So I got hired by Pay It Forward. I think at that point I had about 2 years clean and sober. And so I wound up just, doing very entry level type of work, just kind of making sure that the individuals who live in this sober living programs just follow the rules. Literally all I did, right? And then I saw the opportunity to be able to encourage and support people along the way, right? And so it made it difficult to just tell people what to do, right, without encouraging them and helping them to believe that they can.
Right.
And so I started, just looking for, there was a combination of things. TED Talks, podcasts, books, and really I just wanted to be able to help people to find the type of joy that, was taking place in my heart. Right? How do I help people to see that? How do I help people? And so a lot of times it just looked like consistency and kind of no, yeah. And then sometimes it was a laugh and a joke, and so I stayed with the organization for till today actually, and so every couple of years or so I just began to start moving up. Went from a dorm manager, very entry level, to being a program manager, program director, senior program director. And then about in April, it'll be 2 years, but my board of directors had full confidence in me becoming the CEO. The next CEO, our former CEO, chose to move on to one of our partner organizations. And so they said, who better to run this organization than a guy who went through the program?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. So you're the CEO.
Yeah.
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 Cool. Let's get into a little bit of the gifts of sobriety, right?
Sure.
But I tell people, because I help people a lot in early sobriety and things like that with the organization where I'm at, but I tell everybody, and you tell me if you think this is a true statement, I tell them all, you can go back to your book and you can write down 1,000,000 things, even 1,000 things that you'll be doing in 5 years if you're sober. I'm going to sell yourself short. Would you agree with that?
I would.
Did you ever envision where you'd be today?
No.
Nothing like that, right?
No. I had an idea that I just wanted a car in my own place, and I wanted a college degree so that I could, make some money and help people at the same time. It's literally the only thing I wanted. Got so much more than that.
Yeah, because I think back over in my own life, and I would have never guessed, because at the time, even when I first got to Pay It Forward, I firmly believed that I didn't like people at all.
Yeah.
Well, nothing doing, but somebody saw something in me that I didn't see, and they encouraged me to just do something different, and I did, and come to find out I do.
Yeah.
I kind of like people, and it feels good to help people. It's that, like you say, it's that recovery blossoming, I suppose, or whatever. But it really felt good, and so that's what enhanced me to get to where I am today. You know, and I think that both of us would agree, you know, in the beginning, I used to hear these old timers, got 20 years sobriety right there. Oh, it just keeps getting better. Oh, you're so bullshit. No way.
I didn't believe it.
Yeah, I didn't believe it
I
either.
didn't believe it.
No,
Yeah.
but you know what? It's true.
Yeah.
It may not be, it's not the huge increments like it was in the beginning, but there are those increments, and then sometimes there's those huge things that happen, like, oh, wow,
Yeah.
look at this, you know, and I try to encourage people that way because I firmly believe just about anybody in recovery, if they do it right, can be very successful because we are very smart people. If you think about it.
Absolutely.
We definitely, and so I encourage people all the time to get out of that comfort zone, you know, and do something. You know, I've restored my family, has been restored back to me. So how about your family relationships?
Man, after I went to treatment, man, I had called my mom, and she actually was probably one of the first people that told me she had seen me on the news. I was on Crime Stoppers. And completely clueless. At this moment, I was clueless. But my mom told me something she had never told me before throughout all the times I went to prison, throughout all the addiction, throughout all of the homelessness. She said, I don't want nothing to do with you. That broke my heart.
Yeah.
And she cut me off.
Mm.
And at this point, you know, I didn't know whether I should just give up on life and either hurt myself or go hurt someone else and get back into the streets or back into the lifestyle, or should I make a real change at this point and just do some things, right? Find out how I can, you know, fill my wildest dreams and all this type of stuff. That's what I equated recovery to. And so I decided to stay and to really seek help, really look at change, really dive in on doing the opposite of what I had come from. And so, you know, like I said, I went to jail. I was in jail for about 8 months fighting some of these things that I had done before I decided to get clean. And my relationship with my family just began to grow, right? I wasn't reaching out to them too much like I had done in the past. I was just doing things to make change. Today, my phone doesn't. I mean, it's very rare that my mom does not reach out to me, and I like that. My mom comes to my house, so I recently bought a house, and so my mom, you know, she doesn't just pop up, you know, but she'll reach out to me and she'll say, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm working, I'm studying, whatever." She says, "Well, I'm in the area, and I stopped by, you know, Panda Express. Do you know, can I bring you something?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely, sure." You know, and she was like, "Oh, well, I cooked. Do you want a plate?" I'm like, "Yes." You know, and so she's always just, you know, looking for opportunities to just do for me and love on me. And so I think with my brothers, of course, men kind of mending, you know, some difficult relationships has been a challenge, but I think we've come to a place where we're starting to be pretty good. I'm actually taking a vacation with my brothers.
Cool.
Me and my brothers had a pretty strained relationship. My youngest brother, who's 10 years younger than me, I was in the streets throughout most of his life, so he didn't really know me. You know, I think he was probably 4 or 5 when I just started getting high and drinking and gone and things. And so I didn't really kind of come back around for a while. And then my brother was a year younger than me. He saw all of it, disapproved, and just so we had a pretty strained relationship. Next month we're going to DC.
Cool.
As brothers.
Yeah, there you go.
On a trip just to go hang out, right? And so it's taking some time with my brothers to heal those relationships. But most of my family wants me around today.
Yeah.
You know, I think there are still some family members that think, you know, I'm not there yet, and that's cool.
Right, that's one thing we learned in
Yeah.
recovery, right? We can't control what other people do. So I guess it's been a few years back that one of my sisters and I reconnected.
Yeah.
And my wife, I went up to her place in Washington to visit, and that was our first real vacation. You know, when yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know, prior to you take vacations, but they're out, yeah. Anyway, so we go up there, had a great time, we reconnected. And me and her actually get along great now.
Yeah.
And we're actually doing things together, right? And I have three sisters, and a second sister recently reached out to me. So we're kind of getting back. And the third one, not like you, not so much. You know, we'll see what happens there. But the thing is, though, over time, and what it is, you know, a million times we told people, I promise this is it, I'm done, I'm going to change. And you know what I tell people? That like families of people that are, well, it's when you see a bit of a change and you don't hear those words, that's when it's happening. Because ever since I got sober, I never use those words ever. You know, and it's like, well, that's not. Yeah, you don't have to, right?
Yeah.
But so I have a lot of nieces and nephews. It seems like they're starting to want to be a little more connected with me. You know, and so family is great. And
Family's so good.
I walked around before I got sober, thinking, oh, hell with that dog. You know how it is, we write it off, right? You know, my mom, she passed away before I got sober, and she never really got to see me sober. I know she is now, you know, and that's kind of my living amends, as they call it, you know, is to continue the life that I'm doing in honor of her, in honor of all those things gone before us, really. You know, because the thing is that where you and I have positioned ourselves in the world, the terrible effects of addiction are in our face
Every day.
every day, and we lose people often. You know, I had a gentleman that I was working with, and somebody had passed away, and I was just like, this was the first time that somebody close to me in this world, not the world, but in recovery, that passed away.
Sure.
And it affected me, right? And I was talking to him about it, and he said, I said, well, how many people have died since you've been doing this? And he said, oh, I lost count. Dude, that put me back. I was like, oh my God, how could you? You know, and I was just, you know, how could you ever lose count, right? Because that's what I thought.
Yeah.
And he looked at me, he said, you know, he said, don't be mad at yourself when you do too. And did you know I've lost count? I cannot count the number. And it's like, wow.
Yeah.
But at the same token, I cannot count the number of people that have changed their trajectory as a result of what I've done for somebody or some group or something. And I'll never know. I know some of them, right? But there's the thing is we know in our recovery, man, we lay our head down at night, we're like, oh yeah, I did something today to help somebody. Even if it's just a smile and a hello, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is that we never know what that effect is going to be, and so it's hard doing what we do sometimes.
Yeah,
But then
absolutely.
it is so rewarding.
It is.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I had a friend of mine, and I had actually asked him to sponsor me when I first got sober, and he had told me, he told me very early on. I think I was still in treatment when he told me this. He said, well, when you stay sober, he told me, he said, make sure you get your first suit is a black suit. And I was like, what? He said, yeah, make sure you get a black suit. He said, because you're going to go to a lot of funerals. You're going to go to a lot of weddings. He said, and this is us dealing with life on life's terms.
Yep.
He said, we blocked out so much of the normalcy of just life and seeing things as to the extreme one way or to the extreme the other way, right? The normalcy of life, we have to begin to start allowing the process to come back in. He said, to get you a black suit, he said, it's going to be all right. Regardless.
And it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had one sponsor when I first started, and I did not get along with this guy at all.
Yeah.
And he told me, he said, I don't care. He said, go get another sponsor.
Yeah.
He said, I'll help you meet it. I said, okay. So I went through three. I finally found one.
Yeah.
I finally found one that I connected well with. And man, he is such a help as far as like working the steps and getting through it and just, you know, all the things that we do. And I think that I think that God, because I'm a God guy, 100%, right?
Yeah.
And I think that God puts the people in our lives that we need.
Absolutely.
And He takes the ones we don't need away. Not death wise. I mean, just
No,
puts them out of our way, right? And so, but the thing is that we have to, and I think our recovery teaches us this. We have to 100% trust and give our will to God.
Yeah.
Because, dude, I'm telling you, man, Todd's will. Yeah, that's not such a. That's probably not so. It probably is now, but no. It's still not a good place to be because I'm sure I would go back to not liking people if it was my will. But it's not. It's God's will.
That's why comfort zones are not a healthy place for me. Because when I'm just at a place where I'm just gonna do what I want, this is my comfort zone. I'm not willing to grow mentally. At that point, I've made it up in my mind that I'm not willing to do anything more, right? And doing just a little bit more may be the difference between feeling complete, feeling useful, feeling successful. And so comfort zones are just not always a healthy place for me.
It's funny you should say that. I heard an analogy the other day that was really good, and I was listening to follow. So an athlete, let's say you got a professional quarterback or a running back even, right? And he's young, he's going into college, and he plays the game a certain way, but he works every single day to get stronger and better. So he's got a 20-year career ahead of him, right? Well, at 10 years, he doesn't stop training and getting better. All through that time, he always tries to find ways to do his job a little easier, a little better, right?
Sure.
And the same thing with our personal lives. If we start here and say, okay, well, this is great, man. Where I'm at's great. I like it. I'm good. Done, right? Well, if we do that, just like the athlete, we're going to get weaker and weaker until eventually that's not going to be able to be done. So we have to, I believe, throughout our entire lives, always, like you said, always challenge ourselves.
Absolutely.
You know, no matter what it is, because as we do that, we become stronger mentally and physically. I do know that. Yeah. I was a wreck when I first got sober, but I'm pretty healthy now. But yeah, so it's along that same line.
Sure.
Yeah, we always have to grow.
You know what, man? Comfort, like in a physical sense, right? A comfort zone for me is laying in bed and to continue to hit the snooze button instead of getting up and going to work in the morning.
Yeah.
That's a comfort zone for me, right?
Yeah.
That separates the difference between me being responsible and me feeling comfortable. Okay, I'm fine right now. I can do this. Right when the opportunity is me fulfilling my responsibility.
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't always like, I experience fear anytime that I speak. Anytime that I get up and I have to speak, right? So, every year our organization does these luncheons. I experience a little bit of fear, right? Where it requires me to really get on my knees. God, I need help. I'm nervous, right? Got to speak to these 500 people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my comfort zone will tell me, get somebody else to speak. You don't need to do that. Well, that's the reason why I've learned to just get out of my comfort zone and face whatever fears that I'm experiencing.
Exactly, because if I get that thought in my mind that don't do it, get somebody else, that's telling me right there, that is this thing. Because this thing is not my friend.
Yeah.
It'll tell me really bad things. What I have to do a lot of times when I speak, if I have a speech that I read from, that I've written, if you ever look at it, all around the pages, in between the paragraphs, everywhere, it says slow down. I write it all over the pages of every bit of it because I'll get going quickly and I won't remember to slow down. So I have to write that on my paper because even to this day, I would just go fast. And so I write that on that paper and it allows me to do those pauses when you should do the pause and all those kind of things that go along with it, Yeah. So I understand what you're saying. Fear is, well, they say fear is lack of faith, right? But not necessarily. I believe it is real fear, I suppose, maybe. But the thing is that this thing will make us feel fear, period. Whether it's spiritual or not, because it knows. If it feeds us enough fear, we will feed it what it wants, which is very, very bad for us. Yeah. So yeah. My comfort zone kind of is in bed too when I hit that snooze button. And it's so hard to get up once I start hitting that snooze. It's like, well, I'm gonna be late. Oh, it'll be okay. You know, it's like, yeah. So I really tried not to do that. Even though the dream was fantastic, I just want to go back for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, so let's talk a little bit about Pay It Forward, because I know that not only do you have the sober living dorms, but you help people in the community. You also have a recovery thing going on. Tell me exactly what all, if you were going to give me the spill about Pay It Forward, what's happening.
Absolutely. So Pay It Forward really believes in helping individuals who are experiencing active substance use disorder to get the help they need through support of sober living. Sober living can be in the form of a residential bed, residential dorm programs that we run. And then we also partner with sober living houses in the community. We partner with over 127 houses between San Antonio, Kerrville, the Broncos, Seguin, and Ingram, Texas. And what we do is we help individuals who are getting out of prison, getting out of jails, wanting to just have a safe place to stay so that they can recover, right? Essentially, we'll help them to get into these houses and give them a scholarship to help them to get on their feet. It's not a scholarship that's where it's enough to where they can just be comfortable,
Right.
but it's enough to help them to get on their feet, right? And it really it's $400, and the $400 just helps them to cover the moving fee and whatever the first week is towards that. With the rate of inflation, houses these days, sober living houses are, anywhere from $650 a month on up to $2,400 a month. I think it's probably one of the most expensive I've heard. And so, it's one of our programs, and we do well to meet with and support and encourage and partner with houses to help, their houses to thrive, but it's partnership, right? So we're also going to look for you to come back and kind of work with us.
So,
yeah,
if I'm hearing this right, Pay It Forward's goal in sober living community houses in the community is to make a man start from a positive point instead of a negative point.
Absolutely.
Because if you owe money when you walk in the door, that's scary. Yeah. But if you have a little bit, it doesn't need to be just as long as you're starting on a positive. Yeah, absolutely. That's pretty cool. It never really clicked to me like that until you were just saying that. Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Right. And so, I guess the best way to kind of put this is from a combined effort, collaborative effort, their houses are able to stay sustainable, and we're able to partner with them in order to help more people to find sobriety, recovery, change, hope, happiness, joy, connection, all of these things. And so this program is big. And it helps a lot of people. One of our other programs is we have a sober living program here in San Antonio. We have 46 beds. It's a year-long program. We help individuals get into this program through them already having completed substance use inpatient treatment. They'll have the opportunity to interview with our current residents to get into one of these beds, which is, where you came from. Yeah, that's what you did, right? Yeah. The average length of stay for our male residents is 8 to 10 months. I went through this program, right? So I was homeless, after completing treatment, went through this program, stayed 10 months. My life, now it's thriving, right? And so similar to your story.
Right, yeah. So if I honestly, I believe that if I hadn't gone from treatment into sober living and allowed myself that more time to learn and begin and grow, because I didn't stay the 12 months either. You know that, because you were my dorm captain. But anyway, so God told me the day it was time to go. It's weird.
Yeah.
And I thought about leaving before that, but I didn't get any. My sponsor told me, you gotta wait, you'll know. Yeah. And man, this day popped around and it's like, okay.
Yeah.
3 days from now, because it was actually a holiday coming up, and I wanted to be home for that. Not that I wanted to be home for that, but something told me that I needed to be home. And it was time, and I was strong enough, thanks to people like you and Angie, the other recovery coach there at Pay It Forward. It's just amazing that I knew, because people will tell me, well, I think I gotta go. I said, well, you ain't gotta go then. You'll know.
You'll know.
Yeah. If you think you gotta go, you better not go. It's not time yet, but but Pay It Forward, I think, is an amazing organization. Are y'all in other cities other than just this area, like states or anything? And does anybody ever reach out saying, hey, can you do this here?
Sure.
And what do you tell them?
No.
Not at all.
We could, but it's a different conversation. So from an organizational standpoint, it's going to require us to go to another city, another town, and or another state, right? And it's a nonprofit, man. We're a small nonprofit, so we have to raise money for those funds to be able to provide the services that we provide. And there's a lot of grants, and sure, there's a lot of things kind of out there to be able to support some of those things. Where we're at in Texas, we're in a really good spot to be able to help our community. It would be great someday to be able to maybe push into Austin or maybe into Dallas or Corpus or something, but for right now, we're in a good place, and we need to figure out how to fully bring this community together through our partnerships and through our collaborations to be able to support individuals. And so that's what we're doing. And so now that I'm kind of in the role, coming up on 2 years as the CEO, I'm not going to lead our organization into, going outside of Texas.
I understand that. I guess so.
So we can get to a really healthy place.
There's people all over the country that are watching this, and I'm sure there's people thinking, I wish we had that in our town.
Yeah.
So if somebody called up Ben Brooks and said, hey, Ben, can you just give me advice on how I might be able to start this type of thing?
Sure.
You would do that?
Sure.
But I'm not yet. So, because there are a lot of people that see things that we do and I go, well, we want to do that here. The problem is they got to get you got to get the support. If you don't have the support of the community, it's not going to be that great.
It's not.
But for people out there watching and everything, it's a great program. The things we're doing in San Antonio, I think, are groundbreaking in a lot of ways. And I just hope other people in other areas of the country can do the same, because I want everybody to recover.
Yeah.
With the realization that I know everybody will.
It's funny you say that. So what we're doing in San Antonio is unique. It's amazing. It's all the good description words, right? Last year we did a fundraiser where we had a gentleman who was running from Washington, D.C. back to San Antonio, right? And so a lot of what we do here, we came across organizations that were doing that, spread out, just, so the services that we're providing in our community, in Barry County and, surrounding counties, there were similar organizations, one here in West Virginia, one in Virginia, one in Kentucky, so as we're coming down, right, and there were similar organizations, not maybe able to kind of be at the scale of what we're doing here, but the opportunity for help, I'm happy to, connect people. I'm happy to lead people in the direction maybe of what they're trying to do. And if that would mean partnership for us, that would be a different conversation.
Right, of course.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
But I believe in helping others, because hands down, that's what I was called to do.
Exactly.
Whatever that looks like. And so if that's just offering advice, having conversations, cool. I'm happy to be able to offer whatever support I can.
Cool. Yeah. I think that goes for all of us, right? We'll do whatever we can. I mean, if you tell me that, go do this and it's to help somebody, I'm on it. I'll find a way.
Yeah.
It's funny because a lot of people at my current organization, they know I don't really take no very well.
Mhm.
You know, if I want to do something and I think it's a good thing, and they say no, I'll keep plugging. You know, because I believe in what I believe in. My passion's there, right?
Sure.
And I'm not, but I'm not afraid to step out and say, hey, let's do this, even if they say no.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be able to put yourself out there and say, hey, I want this or I want that.
Yeah.
Speaking of that gentleman, I'm gonna have him on here probably in a few weeks. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna be a good one too.
That
So
ought to be good.
that ought to be real good. But
Yeah.
it's good to know that the other parts of the country are doing kind of the similar things.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think there was and you know, I don't want to get into names. I do my best just for whatever, you know, legal situations. There was a place that, you know, just served food to the homeless, right? They had this amazing story behind why they're doing this. And they provided all of these different services. There were, you know, some organizations that like literally took people 2 weeks in from off the streets and they're in an apartment for, you know, for a year till they're able to get on their feet on their own and provide continued case management. I was like, wow,
Yeah,
2 weeks?
they do that.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. You know,
That is a wow, because I know on average it takes a lot longer to get somebody from that point into housing. You know, it takes a bit. So 2 weeks is
2 weeks.
it's 2 weeks. Is
Yeah, the person engages for 2 weeks, right? They get them taken care of.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Ben. I want to thank you for coming. Anything you got to say?
If you're interested in some of the work that Pay It Forward does, please go to our website, www.payitforwardsa.org. And if I could just leave with this, from my own experience and based on some of the things that we've talked about here today, we are some of our most authentic selves when we look to be able to help other individuals to be successful, and whatever that looks like. Because success for each individual is going to always be a little different. So if we're able to help someone, help someone. Because somebody told me one day, they said, help somebody. Help somebody.
Yep. Yeah. All right, Ben.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.